Starstruck.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Joyride. I am Jared Brandon Flandy, and
I am Adam Mendenhall.
this is the podcast where we talk about all things vehicle and adventure. And today we got a kind of a fun and an informative one at the same time. It's a good story episode. So you ready for this one, Adam?
I am. I'm always game for a good story.
But before we do that, we want to make a few announcements, of course, and as well as some of our sponsors. We'd like to thank many of our listeners who enjoy the show. Once again, thank you very much. But if you really do like our show, we have lots of other offerings. Our parent company, Starstruck. We also are in the movie business, and we also are in online magazines as well. So if you want to check out some of our other products, including this podcast, which is on our website as well, that website is starstruckcompany.com. And once again, that is starstruckcompany.com. You can check out all, like I said, all the other things working on, including things that Adam himself has made acting appearances in as well. So with that in mind, we'd also like to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Noah Norwood of the Hot Rod Kid podcast. Noah has different guests every week, particularly from the automotive community, but particularly what I'm trying to get at is the hot rod community in particular. But he's also a professional automotive restorer, so things like old Mustangs, like from Frank Bullitt and that kind of thing, or Ford V8s from the Bonnie and Clyde era. That's what he specializes in. So once again, that is the Hot Rod Kid podcast. That is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So with that said, are you ready for story time, Adam?
I am.
Now, if anyone's listened to this show for a while now, we cover a lot of different things. Sometimes it's cars, but we also cover, transportation topics in general. So I was inspired to write this one because I was driving in traffic like everyone else, and I was thinking about rules of the road. And I was like, someone had to come up with this, right?
And you think, how do you get that process in place of, hey, we've got to do something here different. We just can't be driving wherever we want.
No. And so, like I said, someone had to think of this, and so I looked it up, and there was somebody who thought of all this stuff. And this is who we're going to be covering today. So the name of this episode is Rules of the Road, William Phelps Eno.
Interesting name.
So, long before the invention of the automobile, humankind has built roads for thousands of years. The Roman Empire had a vast highway network that allowed its mighty legions to march across Europe and beyond, spreading their supposedly more superior culture with them. The Silk Road from China to Europe not only brought silk, but also new ideas that would change history. Alas, with all these ancient roads around the world, there has also been the ancient problem of traffic. And we think of traffic being like, you get this image of like a office space in the beginning, just cars piled up on a highway. There's always been traffic, whether it's people or wagons and carts. This has always been a problem, right?
In one form or another,
Yeah.
I think in current day, we always think of the office space, classic, rush hour scenario. Well, imagine that with, just a horse and buggy or a cart and a horse or donkey.
Is he making waffles?
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm glad he foreshadowed that a bit here. So, even as far up to the Victorian period, horse-drawn carriage and wagon accidents were extraordinarily common. I don't know how they move at 3 miles per hour but I guess if it gets busy enough, things would happen.
Yeah, it's a different dynamic too, because you're dealing with live animals, right? Which are your power plant, and they have sight and sound, and somehow that would help avoid them smashing into another.
It's like Austin Powers when he's got the steamroller. This is what I'm envisioning. It's like, out of the way, and it's just moving at 3 miles an hour.
Exactly. There's nothing we can do.
I guess I wasn't there, so I could be wrong, but that's just the picture I have. So traffic blockades plagued the great cities of Paris, London, and New York. This was mostly due to the fact that all of these cities did not have any formal traffic regulations or rules of the road. All this would change with a man named William Phelps Eno. I believe I'm pronouncing that right, by the way. I looked it up. I found some videos on YouTube. His last name is spelled E-N-O, and they all said Eno as well. So I didn't know if it was Eno or Eno. So I'm gonna go with Eno for the time being. Eno was born on June 3rd, 1858, in New York City. He was the youngest child of Amos R. Eno, interesting name as well, and Lucy Jane Phelps. So I'm assuming if his name is not hyphenated, so I'm assuming his middle name is his mother's maiden name.
I would as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
When William was a child in the late 1860s, the world was a much different place. This was right after or during the period of the American Civil War, and New York was busier than ever. What were particularly busy were the streets of New York, which were filled beyond reason with horses, carriages, and pedestrians overflowing like a root beer float. Now, because when you think in New York, you're thinking probably 1960s up to now, So what you got to kind of picture in mind, if anyone's seen the movie Gangs of New York, have you? That Martin Scorsese flick. This is kind of what we're thinking, essentially.
It's a good atmosphere setting.
With Daniel Day-Lewis and the stovepipe hats and that kind of thing. Just a moment here. Okay. At this time, commerce was booming, and the areas that typically had the most activity were the roadways that led from warehouses to shopping districts of the city. So, it's no different now. You got to get something to Macy's, right? These parts of town were so problematic because the total charge of the item being purchased varied upon the delivery time.
Jeez.
So it's not like Amazon going, well, if we didn't get it to you in 2 days, sorry. It's just like, well, if it takes me 2 days to get there, or an extra day, I'm going to charge you very heavily for it.
Yeah, we're going to make up for it here, depending on how far out you are.
So if we might have to do an episode of this, but it was like pizza delivery boys. I think it was Domino's that said, we'll get it there in a certain amount of time, or we'll give you a free pizza.
Or it's free.
Yep. And so what ended up happening is you had pizza delivery boys, speeding, breaking every traffic law in order to get the pizza there. And I think a young gentleman died. Did you ever hear about that?
I did. That does sound familiar.
Yeah,
Yep.
And then that's when they started to change their policy. So this is basically what's going on, but just not in a piece of crap Honda Civic. It's in a horse wagon.
Yeah. To put things in perspective.
So the streets were full of cargo wagons trying to make good time is what's happening. As a result, blockades became an everyday occurrence in large cities such as New York, and problems with delivery drivers and the police were not uncommon. It has even been suspected that police violence was one method of breaking up these traffic jams.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. One evening in 1867, a young William Phelps Eno, at the age of 9, would witness one of these traffic jams when he was with his mother in the city. The audience of the New York Opera House had just been let out when William and his mother were in town. Now, anyone who has tried to leave a large event after it ends knows this is usually a bad decision. and you are a regular concert goer. Do you have any thoughts or comments on that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of those things. Either you leave a little early or you wait and stay late.
Have you ever left at the worst time possible?
I have. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've done that before, and you will just basically sit and not move. Where you could have been, hey, we could have been in the parking lot, relaxing outside of the car, versus sitting here burning gas up for literally hour or hours to get out of a show, depending on the size.
I could just see you there behind your steering wheel. In the case of what William witnessed, it was much worse than usual. At least 12 carriages had been involved with the accident, and it took 2 hours until all of them were untangled so the roadway could be clear again.
Oh my gosh! You think about all the gear involved with a horse and carriage,
the leather and the straps.
Yeah, all the connecting points, and to have that mangled up, attached to an animal. What a nightmare to try to separate.
That's the other thing too. You're not. These are vehicles. Yes, there's a thing with four wheels on, but you're dealing with a sentient being that's pulling it.
Yeah, the live element of having a living, breathing animal there. That's a whole nother. Yeah, throws a whole nother caveat.
I cannot imagine that. I cannot imagine, because you have to be. I think about that every day. It's like once upon a time, people had to be. Not everyone was a horse person. We make fun of kind of tease horse people today, but everyone had to know how horses behaved essentially at one point.
No, it is. And again, just horse maintenance, just having farrier service, horseshoes. You think about that, kind of a form of tires, right? When was the last time you had your shoe horsed?
I'm sure it was like when you go to those like sketchy oil place changes. There's probably guys at farriers that probably, you need new shoes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Like, I just changed them last week myself. Oh, never mind. Sorry, sir, get out of here. It was probably the same thing, just in a different way.
Yeah, high mileage.
High mileage horse.
Yeah.
So this 12 carriage, accident here. Consequently, this memory was burned into William's mind for the rest of his life. He would later write, quote, "That very traffic jam, many years before the motor car came into use, will always remain in my memory. There were only about a dozen horses and carriages involved, and all that was needed was a little order to keep the traffic moving. Yet nobody knew exactly what to do. Neither the drivers nor the police knew anything about the control of traffic."
Oh my gosh!
And that's a good point, because it's like usually, like if you have a fender bender or anything like that, a police officer is always usually the first to arrive and moderate the situation. Not even the police know what to do right now.
Oh my God! Yeah, you're just at the mercy of who has the best idea.
So it's two guys just probably arguing and cussing the ever-loading crap out of each other before, and the police officer going, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the most likely scenario.
It's like, I'll get your shit off the road. I don't know. This amount of traffic chaos, as you can imagine, was not popular with the public. And the only person who decided to attack the problem was William Phelps Eno. He decided the rules of the road should have three basic tenets. Number one, we must have concise and some and just rules easily understood and owed and enforced under legal enactment. 2, these rules must be so placed and circulated that there can be no excuse for not knowing. That has not changed. The police must be empowered. Number 3, the police must be empowered in order to enforce them, and men should be trained for that purpose. I don't disagree, generally speaking.
No, yeah, some type of formal training.
Yeah.
I mean, geez.
When the automobile was starting to become more commonplace in the 19th and 20th centuries, William could no longer remain on the sidelines regarding society's traffic problems. In 1899, at the age of 40, William left his family's real estate company and began to revolutionize the transportation world. So he's 40 in 1899. So that's an older man at that time. That's a young man now for the most part. But back then, it's like he's doing this later in life.
Oh, yeah.
His initial inspiration for developing road safety came from an unexpected place. the sea.
Whoa. Yeah, that's not something you'd think of connecting to to traffic right offhand. But
Well, you bring up the farrier thing. This is another thing that we totally don't, we kind of overlook today in our modern world is oceanic travel. Which was, there was airplanes, but there isn't, you don't get on a Boeing with Alaska and fly to Los Angeles or Paris. You had to take a boat to get anywhere. So oceanic travel, of course, was as old as civilization itself, and ships owned by companies such as Cunard and the White Star Line were being built bigger and better than ever. Some of these ships owned by the White Star Line included the Olympic, Britannic, and the
Titanic, of course. Yes, the Olympic being the sister ship to the Titanic.
And we might, the Olympic's a good story. That might be a good topic in the future because while her sister ship had, of course, the obvious unfortunate circumstances, the Olympic was, I think they nicknamed her Old Reliable or something.
Mm-hmm.
It survived wars. It got torpedoed.
Yes.
It never sank.
But as far as, it was a mirror image of the Titanic.
Yeah, it was. Looked exactly the same, but had a much more successful career.
That's a podcast on its own.
Yeah, exactly. William patiently observed these ships and naval navigation in general, so he's watching how ships are working in harbors and that kind of thing, okay? And he thought they did a pretty good job about it. So he thought that vehicles on land needed a similar system. So I know it's kind of polar opposites of each other, but he's going, they're doing a good job navigating these big, giant things in these tough places, so why can't we do it with much smaller things on the land? By watching ship traffic, he was able to produce an early written work, which he called, quote, Rules of Movement. And it has nothing to do with your bowels, don't worry. He would then start to apply what he learned from ship navigation to traffic that occurred on land with time, as I was just saying. So by 1900, William had written his treatise, quote, Reform in our street traffic urgently needed.
Exclamation point.
It's not maybe the best title, but I guess I gets the point across, right?
Well, and from what you just described, boy, talk about take for granted. It was urgently needed.
In 1903, he designed the first traffic code for New York City. Up till 1900, traffic regulations in the New York road system were virtually unheard of. Despite writing the first code of this kind, William thought cars would be a passing fad.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious! Just like we thought in the early '90s, the internet's just a fad. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you could read about that. Yeah. Anyone who's younger listeners would probably think that's astounding. But there's people in the '90s that went, "No, this isn't going to work." Up to the late '90s.
Yeah, it truly was. This'll pass. This'll pass. The old ways are the best ways still. Yeah.
So he's kind of off on that, but he's on the right track with everything else, nonetheless. Okay, so during this period in the early 20th century, Eno proposed the current version of roundabouts.
Ooh.
Small roundabouts had been built in countries like England for some time, but William was the first to suggest the modern version of roundabouts we use today. Now, our international listeners are lucky enough to always be using roundabouts. It's something in this country we're just now adopting. I think we've talked about it, but
we have a little bit, and you're noticing it more and more down here in places where you didn't before, and especially when they're doing any type of infrastructure upgrade to areas. More times than not, I've noticed it incorporates some type of roundabout or more than one roundabout.
And they're a really good idea, and for two reasons. One, they're safer for traffic. Two, they're cheaper than building an intersection. You don't have to build lights.
It is. Yeah, it's just a matter of people using them properly like anything else.
That's true. That's true, which is kind of the theme of this episode. Yep. So, with the success of these new roundabouts, so they did build them per his suggestion, the NYPD asked Eno to develop a new traffic improvements. And this led to the construction of Columbus Circle in New York City.
Oh.
Okay, so big roundabout thing.
Yeah,
huge, and with lots of traffic, and which is still there to this day. It works well. The system was so successful that the system was put into use around the world. one of the most noteworthy examples was the roundabout built around the Arc de Triomphe in Paris in 1907.
Ooh.
I have actually been around that with my dad in a Renault.
Oh, that's neat.
We went round in circles and circles because, Tom-Toms are coming on, but it was still kind of new. That's the other beautiful thing about it. So we're just going in circles and circles around the Arc de Triomphe until we just figure out which exit we need.
Well, you passed it again. My MapQuest directions are worthless.
But, you always get a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance. That's
true.
And there was these French guys laughing at us. I knew there was.
Oh, I bet.
We figured it out, though. So Eno's designs would also additionally influence junctions such as Piccadilly Circus in London. So that's kind of like the Times Square of London is a good kind of an equivalent way of thinking about
that's
it.
Good visual.
Yep. Ships and cars were not the only thing on his mind, however. William also became interested in rail travel. Somehow he found the time to develop the plans for the New York subway system before anyone had ever thought about building it.
Whoa.
So he's already the first to think about get it below ground. I mean, the London Underground, I think it had already been around, but, he's like, let's do this in North America too, essentially. By 1908, William had developed another new innovation, which was the one-way street. It was first put into use in the spring of 1908. Another thing we take for granted, a one-way street. For the most part, no one really thought of formalizing that. You can one direction of traffic.
That is. I mean, again, for the time, you think they just didn't even. Again, more things we take for granted today that weren't commonplace then.
With this experience now under his belt, he began working on the manifesto of all manifestos about responsible and organized road travel. Now, I like this guy, but I don't know how fun he would be at a dinner party, to be honest.
A little too focused, I think.
Maybe.
Yep.
With time, he completed it, and his plan was adopted in New York City in 1909. It was entitled, quote, Rules of the Road.
Ooh.
Thus the expression.
Straight and to the point.
Mm-hmm. New York City was not the only institution to adapt William's new ideas. Aside from Rules of the Road, he wrote the first traffic manual for the New York City Police Department. They just didn't have one, so now they do now.
That baffles me right there. It's like you picture this old policeman with a whistle or something, and he's directing horse and carriages, and
and there's no formal manual.
There's no formal manual for it. It was just subject to interpretation.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. Which is probably why they had as many problems as they did.
That's explaining a lot.
Yep. As important as all these civilian innovations had been, William would have to change gears when World War I began in 1914. William would prepare a series of traffic codes which helped speed up the movement of military traffic. After World War I, he was awarded the Cross of Legion of Honor by the government of France, since his traffic idea gave the French the ability to send 60,000 troops at an accelerated rate to Verdun to stop the German advance toward Paris, which ended up turning the tide of the war for the Western powers.
Wow.
Something else these are simple things, but important things. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, and how they were implemented, that's, jeez.
In 1921, William would found the Eno Transportation Foundation. He started it as a way of attracting other like-minded individuals in order to make the roadways, railways, and the seaways more safer for all those involved. The organization still exists to this day. It would not take long for time to pass, and the Roaring Twenties continued to roar. Economic prosperity in places like the United States led to the promiscuous Jazz Age, but places like Italy, the tune was different. In 1922, Benito Mussolini and his fascist party had ruthlessly taken power in Italy. As terrible as far-right leaders are, Mussolini did get one thing right. He started to implement some of William Eno's traffic regulations in order to create a more modern Italy.
Of all things.
Of all things. Mussolini would also earn an admiring fan during his early tenure, and this was a struggling young soldier from Austria named Adolf Hitler.
Oh, wow.
When Hitler came to power many years later in the 1930s, he took another page from Mussolini's notes and also started to implement some of Eno's innovations when the Nazis continued to construct the Autobahn system of highways.
Amazing how things intertwine in history.
So this guy's like traffic Forrest Gump, basically.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
And by the way, on the note of the Autobahn, we have made an entire Autobahn episode, which is in our back catalog. So if you want to hear all about that, by all means, check out that episode. William's renown would continue to spread around the world, and at one point, he traveled to different parts of Asia in order to help them with their traffic problems. So he's Forrest Gumping all the way over there. Even though his ideas had spread around the world by the end of the Second World War, William's time on Earth began to be questioned when he developed a case of bronchopneumonia. Alas, all good things come to an end, and William died on December 3rd, 1945. He was 87 years old.
Full life.
Mm-hmm. Even though he's no longer with us, William left behind a plethora of traffic innovations. Some of these include, are you ready for this? Systems of shared intersections, so multiple lanes. One-way traffic circles. One-way streets, as mentioned. Traffic lights. Traffic signs, including the invention of the stop sign.
I mean, this is the most basic stuff. Again,
it did not exist.
It didn't exist
until very recently.
I know our listeners are probably having a hard time, but I am as well right now, just trying to wrap my head around. That's fascinating to think about.
Yeah.
You know,
pavement marking, regulations against jaywalking. And we're gonna do an episode on walking and pedestrians.
Oh, I've got some stories on that another time.
Taxi stands, off-street parking, driver's licenses.
Wow.
Vehicle registration, and probably his not most popular innovation, traffic tickets.
That's an incredible list. And to think back, you just mentioned driver's licenses where, hey, those weren't even a thing at a period of time.
Nope.
Where you didn't have to have something. You could just hop in and go.
Yep. Even after his death, William's passion for transportation was not limited to traveling vehicles. In the future, William's house would have to be moved. I love your expression on that one.
Confused. Why would his house have to be moved?
Due to all his advice and expertise over the years, he managed to become a wealthy man and was able to afford a 32-room mansion in Connecticut. After he died and the decades had passed, the mansion had fallen into disrepair. A buyer in the late 20th century had purchased the mansion and the land that went along with it, but the buyer did not want the mansion itself, but the waterfront property that it stood on, so they could subdivide the land and sell it to multiple new owners. The Connecticut Trust for Historic Preservation did not like the idea of the mansion being destroyed, so they intervened by offering the mansion for only, guess how much?
$12,000.
$1.
What?
Now, would you buy it for $1?
Of course.
Now, everyone did the same thing you just said. Alas, when most people read the announcement, they ignored the rest of the information that stated the mansion would have to be barged to a new location and then be restored once it had been resettled.
That's an expensive $1 purchase if I've ever heard of one.
The cost of moving and restoring the mansion was estimated to be between $500,000 to $1.7 million.
And that was back then. Wow.
This is, I think, in the 90s, I think. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
The supposed $1 mansion drug just about everyone in the local region out of the woodwork, and they soon assaulted it in droves. This became too much for the current owner, who, ironically, was living in the nearby carriage house.
Oh, my gosh.
As a result, the mansion ended up being razed in 1997.
Wow. A little bit of a catch.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just thought that was funny, so I thought that should be included. So.
That's wild.
All right. So, even though we may not like traffic, it is an everyday part of life no matter what part of the globe you live in. As bad as we think it might be, it would still be a lot worse if we did not have innovators like William Phelps Eno, who decided to step up to the plate in order to greatly improve upon this age-old problem. With that said, our hero, as usual, had one last trick up his sleeve.
Ooh.
William Phelps Eno never attained a driver's license. He preferred to travel by horse until the last days of his life.
Wow. Die hard till the end.
And that is the end of our story.
It's always interesting to see and hear the origins of such commonplace things that, again, we take for granted.
Exactly. So with that said, I think we're going to start bringing things to a close. Do you have any last concluding comments, Adam, after everything you heard?
I would just say, hey, that's a moment of reflection after listening to this podcast and this most recent episode on where you're going, how you got there, and where those rules came from.
Perfect. And once again, I'd like to say thank you for listening. We appreciate any support you can do on Patreon. We're going to have lots of new good bonus features there as well in order to enhance your podcast experience. And please do check out the rest of our links we have in the description boxes, including our parent company's website, starstruckcompany.com, where we have all sorts of fun things there as well. And with that said, I think we'll catch you on our next episode of Joyride. All right, Adam?
Yep, well, I'll see you there.
All right. Signing out.